Hello everyone, my name is Jack Hintz. I'm sorry about my voice, it's kind of gone right now. And this is my reflection for chapter 6, chapter 6 of Black is the Body, entitled Skin. So the chapter starts out with a story about Megan and just the difference between her hand and Emily's. Megan comes up to her and like holds, they kind of compare palms with their hands, and they're shocked by the sheer difference of each other. And her father pulls her hand away, and Megan and her both kind of look at each other and kind of like they feel the shame. You know what I mean? Like they know that like while they were both fascinated by what they were looking at, it was kind of wrong to compare each other like that. And her father teaches her a quick lesson. And then Julia asks her, "What color skin is John's?" And she panics. Did you mean like? She's like, "Did you mean his shirt?" And she's like, "No, no, no. What color skin is he?" And she has to explain it to her in the most sensitive and best way she can. And she's quiet after that, so she feels like she accomplished her job. And then she talks about how the Crayola lives, and she wants her children to learn before race. She wants them to learn color because she said that race is trauma and color is beauty. And she said that race is something that we deal with in our private life, and color is something that we deal with in our public life. She then talks about her mother and saying that she's maintaining her legacy, and she's confused if she's maintaining. Excuse me. She talks about her mother, and she then asks, "Am I maintaining her legacy, or am I perpetuating the pain of the past?" And so she kind of has this mental conflict at this point in the chapter. She flashes back a little bit to a conversation with Shantae, a friend of hers, and a conversation about how white people are raised differently than them and how they have a right to feel safe around them, and how white people have a right to feel safe in public, and basically like kind of comparing them. And then she goes to Isabella telling a story about on the bus how Julia was some kid named Farhan made a comment about her skin and how other people came to her protection and came to call the student racist and be like, "Yo, don't say that. That's kind of messed up." And so she kind of felt inspired by that. And then she again flashes back to the story where she's having a conversation with Julia, or with Shantae, excuse me, and she talks about John's body and how her daughters, who are dark in color, view his body as a shield and kind of like something to hide behind, or something to protect them. And then Isabella, she's talking to she's like teasing Isabella a little bit. She's saying like she's going to marry a man with different skin color, and at first like and she's kind of like shocked. She's like, what do you mean?" And she's like, "No, no, no." Eventually, she goes on to explain. She's like, "I want to marry someone like John," and she wasn't really sure. Like, it kind of like was a surprise for her, and she was like, I want my daughters to have the protection that they have now in the future with a white man in their relationship, and a white man to kind of look after them." And she said that it made her feel comfortable that they have John, someone who can, like I said, like shield them and kind of like make them more comfortable. And then she talks a story about a summertime gathering and how she was with a group of her black friends, and a white person made a comment, and they kind of had like a snarky response, and they all kind of laughed, and how it made the white couple kind of like, they were like indignant. I don't really know. They kind of like, I could see like, she has a really good way of describing it to where I feel like I could see the face they were making, where they were probably just like, oh oops, like they were like, I don't want to say accidentally racist, but like they definitely made like a comment that like they probably, I feel like they regretted. And then she talks about her hotel in Hampton, and she talks about Barbara, the lady she meets, and she begins having a conversation with her. She tells her what she tells Shantae, that we have to teach our kids who are black in order to survive instead of how to live. And she kind of agrees with her, and she talks more a little bit about her. And going off of Hampton, she again talks about how she feels comfortable walking around the streets of Virginia because she feels like she's not a black person in a white space. She feels kind of like at home, and like it kind of makes her feel free. Then she talks about class, and she goes back to a book, The Invisible Man. She comments on that a little bit, and her first student she talks about is Dusty, saying things like, "I thought we weren't supposed to see race anymore," and she kind of has to explain that concept to him. She talks about one of her students named Harrison. He saw Emily talking to a tall person who was black, and she asked like, "Is that a basketball player?" And like Harrison's face kind of like sank, and he was like, and like she again talks about what's it called? What was her name? Katie. She talks about Katie in this chapter, and how she sends her an email, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm really sorry that I called you like a black person. Like I referred to you like." She's like sends her an email, and she's like, "It's okay. Like, don't worry. I am a black woman, and I'm okay with that." And she again sees a generation of students she's teaching, and she sees a generation that's afraid of saying what they see. She then she flashes back to the bed and breakfast that they're staying in Hampton, and she thinks about like what she could do if she stayed in Hampton and John stayed in Idaho and like looked after her kids, or not Idaho, I'm sorry, Vermont. She stayed in Vermont and looked after her kids, and she again kind of like, she quickly dismisses this thought. She's like, "No, that would be going behind my kids' back, and that's not motherhood," you know what I mean? So she kind of deflects that thought, and then she the very last part, she talks about how race is a social construction and racism is the foundation. She said she wants her children to live and to be free like white people, but she says she doesn't know if she has, it's like she doesn't know if she has tools or if she has it in her to teach her kids like that, but that's what she wants to do. And that's how she ends the chapter. And I think that's a really effective way to end the chapter because it kind of comes full circle and it ties back to like the story of the kids coming to Julia's defense. I thought my favorite part and the most effective part of conveying this chapter was the part where she talks about her Crayola lives and displaying how race needs to be learned after you learn color and how our kids need to learn how to live instead of survive. Because I thought this was a really effective tactic. And I don't want to say I never saw it this way, but I feel like the writer is really good at, like, Emily is just really good at making these comparisons, saying, like, race is trauma and color is beauty. And race is something we practice in our private life, and color is something we practice in the public. And I really thought this was just a really smart way to for her to display this kind of how she feels, and it really resonated with me as a reader. And I feel like I kind of got like an understanding of where she was coming from, and like I kind of understand now, like I kind of understand like a little bit of like how race is trauma and how color is beauty, and the way she words it makes it very effective, and it really resonated with me. I thought that was my favorite part of the chapter.